Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So if you're not interested in a little bit of a program update, you can just use the timestamps to fast forward to our sessions today. But our training month is just going to switch up a little bit, and I thought I'd highlight what is going to be different. So this is the new plan. Here we have the old plan. Basically, the biggest difference is this training camp here in Ottawa, I have to just remove, and then the following week changes up a bit. So as you can see now, the training camp in Ottawa is gone. It's kind of unfortunate. The reason for this is because, especially, so at the time I'm recording this, I just got back from doing these two Bloc sessions, which we'll get to later in the video. But this was like some of the most comp style bouldering I've done since I tweaked my shoulder. Block shop was pretty comp style, but there were still like sort of basic boulders that we're getting on, like sort of classic style. But the Bloc stuff, there was a lot of jumping, lots of pressing, and my shoulder felt quite sore. And I realized today actually that, especially with the super comp style stuff, it's not at 100%, and it's not comp ready. So the training camp that we were going to do on this day was supposed to be like a mock comp in the morning, followed by a reworking of the boulders. And I don't want to go do a mock comp and, like, you know, for fear of making it worse, if there happens to be like a pressing move or some sort of shoulder move, and I will either have to skip out on a boulder, which kind of sucks, or I might get ahead of myself and try too hard if I kind of get caught up in it. And so it's better not to risk it. My priority right now is the high performance comp that's coming up in the next month. So I'd rather just say, yeah, you know, we're settling into Montreal. I want to just get a little bit more used to climbing comp style stuff and trusting my shoulder before we go and do an event. And the dark horse, I think, will be okay. It's going to give me like another whole week to get used to it, strengthen my shoulder a bit, and just feel more comfortable and confident. But I definitely know at least for like in a couple days, I don't want to be doing like a high, especially because like there's a lot of Canadian team members, so the boulders will probably be quite hard, and there will be no like let up. So if there's a shoulder move, it's going to be a hard shoulder move, and I don't want to risk it. So yeah, that's basically the update. But yeah, just a little update on the training program, and now let's jump into our first session, which is a bouldering session at Bloc. So here we are at Bloc. This gym is one of the coolest gyms I've visited recently. I've been here once before, and we did a video here from a couple months ago. I think it was back in July or something, if you want to go check out like our first session here at Bloc. But this gym is not quite in Montreal. I forget the name of the city it's in, but it's just like over the bridge, so it's not on Montreal Island. So it was like a little bit further from where you're staying, but this place is worth the trip. I'll try not to say too much of the same stuff that I said in the first video that we did here, but the gist of what I was talking about in the first video that we featured Bloc was how amazing I thought this place was. And it's like a pretty new gym. I think it's like a year old, and I was just like blown away when I first came to this place by how sort of new and like revolutionary this place felt. It's been a while since I've like gone into a new gym and just felt like quite different about it. Like this place, you can just tell, has like such a cool like vibe and feel, and the boulders have like such a nice theme. The setting is good. The place is like super beautiful. And so yeah, just like the whole everything about this gym, I was really hit with this wow factor the first time I was here. And so I was very, very much looking forward to coming here again, and, you know, having this place be just a gym that we can go to anytime we want. So yeah, anyway, that's my sort of loving of Bloc, and we'll just talk about the boulders now. But yeah, this gym, the grading is a bit different from the other gyms we've been going to previously. They stick to just V grades here, so we don't need to pay attention to the tape color. Here we're hopping on, I guess, what was like the hardest a V grade boulder that was up, but I don't actually think this ended up being the hardest boulder that I was trying today. There was some other ones that are hard. This boulder we're trying here, also you can see kind of looks like it has some sort of 360 sequence. I think we're supposed to be going up right hand to this crimp and then going left like spinning around 360 to go to the other crimp, and then, you know, unwind all the way to the first white volume with the crimp on it. But I wasn't feeling too good in this morning session, and I didn't think that I could quite jump and load that crimp really hard with my right hand. So I decided to do something that suited my style a bit more and skip the sort of intense 360 campus and just do a dyno. And while this may seem like a physically intense method to do this boulder, I think it was actually a bit easier on the grip power than going for the shoulder buster into the 360. And so I was able to do this boulder. But yeah, they have their V grades like I was talking about. And then something that was new since the last time Maddie and I were here was they had a few of these boulders. Actually, a good time for this to show up on the screen. So this boulder you can see does not have a V grade. And I guess maybe these are like, you know how some gyms have like a comp wall, obviously. I think they have like some comp boulders spread throughout the gym instead of having like a dedicated wall, which I think is a really good idea. At least that's my impression of what these boulders were. And we'll get on a few more of them later. But yeah, this is one of their comp boulders. This boulder was probably the hardest boulder up in the, no, it is definitely the hardest boulder up in the gym. And I'm giving it a couple attempts here. But what was very strange about this morning session was, like I said, I wasn't feeling super good. And that just happens sometimes, you know, some days are good, some days are bad. But in particular, in this morning session, my pinch strength felt like absolutely non-existent. It was very strange. I was like, I know how that pinch, that start pinch should be feeling in my hand, but for some reason it just felt like I couldn't even touch it. So I quickly moved on from that boulder after trying it a couple times and started to realize that for this morning session of bouldering, we were going to try and stick to some moderates, or at least the sort of not super physical climbing, because I just wasn't feeling super hot in the morning for some reason. I think it's just, you know, we did some pretty intense couple days of training back after rest week, and now my body's feeling a bit fatigued. But yeah, so the idea is to go around Rose Block. It's a pretty big gym filled with just a whole lot of boulders, and I can just have no problem, you know, being occupied for this whole morning session, just going around and doing a bunch of moderate boulders, because there's just so many boulders to go around, which was super great. And so we're doing some 8s and 9s. One thing you'll notice about Rose Block as well is my impression of this gym is it seems to be the jumpiest gym in like the Montreal area. Like you can see we're like jumping around on a lot of boulders. That last one was a cool paddle. This one is not quite a jump, but we're gonna get to some more jumps later. So Maddie in particular also has like a lot of coordination sessions programmed that her coach has given her on her program. And so this gym is like probably the best for those kind of sessions, like the coordination and jumping sessions. And I think anytime that me and Maddie just want to go and get on some like jumping moves, Rose Block seems to be the place. I've been noticing they've been really good at setting like lots of coordination and lots of jumping, kind of like Studio Block was really good for when we were living in Germany. But man, as you can tell, as we're going through all of these boulders, like this place is just so aesthetic. It is like so pleasant to be in this gym. All the boulders are like very pretty, and it's also hard to come across in the video, just the sort of feeling you have when you're in this gym, like looking around, surrounded by all like the pretty boulders and the nice like black walls. If you ever find yourself in the Montreal area, you gotta come check out Rose Block. It's like it's the new thing around here. It's a very cool gym, and I'm psyched to come train here all the time. And so now let's talk about this boulder here. This boulder was like the confirmation that I had during the session that I just could not pinch for anything. I mean, this boulder is like hard, but I have climbed on like these blue pill holds quite a bit in the past. Like I kind of know how they should be feeling. And same sort of thing with that other boulder with the purple pinch. I'm like trying to hold these holds and I just can't. Like I can't squeeze my hands at all. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So I quickly moved on to that, and I'm gonna save it for the second session. And that's one of the best things actually about doing these like double bouldering days is if I happen to sort of be feeling bad in my morning session of bouldering, you know, rather than having just, you know, sort of write off the day of training as a bad, you know, if I was to just do like an hour and a half session long of bouldering and that was like the training day, Now all of a sudden I give myself, by doing like a second bouldering session later in the day, I give myself another chance to like be feeling good, and so that I can actually try these boulders that like I am just like not able to attempt in this session. I can try them again later and have a better chance of doing them, and that ends up being the case in the second session. I feel like quite a lot better, and have confirmation that I was sort of feeling like way off in this session by how I was able to perform a bit better on some of the boulders later. So let's talk about this boulder that we're trying here. So this boulder is another one of their comp boulders, and this one was super cool. We have a nice little swing move at the start where I use my side-to-side swing method, and then this move coming up here is going to feature today's tip of the day. So this one's going to be pretty quick, and I've been waiting to get this one off for a long time. I'm super excited that we finally get a boulder in a comp climb where I can talk about this. And this is the dynamic inside flag. So like maybe like a month ago or something, I had just sort of inside flags as general. Inside flags in general was like my tip of the day from that video, and how they can be super useful in places that you wouldn't necessarily expect. But to take it even a step further, the dynamic inside flag has really been something that Maddie and I have been playing around with recently, and it has like sort of changed the game for me. There have been a lot of scenarios where a dynamic inside flag is like, it is crazy how well it works, and it's the best way to do a lot of sequences sometimes. So this move actually in particular here, I've actually seen a video of Seb doing this on Instagram, and I saw him doing like this sort of two-hand shoulder move way, and that's probably, I would imagine, what the setters are going for. It definitely felt doable, but it was feeling like not super solid for me today, and I could tell that it was going to take a few more tries to stick it like that, and it would be pretty low percentage. And so I was just looking at this boulder, and I thought to myself, this actually looks like a great instance to try this inside dynamic inside flag. So now the way that I've been realizing that this move works best is, so let's let's say that this left sloper wasn't even there. How would we stick this move? And this is a great example. So the way I'm about to go try this move is I'm gonna go just hold the right hold with my left hand and then cup it with my right hand, and then I'm gonna do an inside flag at the same time. If I didn't do an inside flag and I went to just sort of go up and compress this hold, the foot is a little bit too much to the right, like underneath where my center of gravity is. It's sort of deceptive from this camera angle, but it's a little bit too much right. Whereas if I was to go stand up to the sloper with both hands, I would barn door off. It's not left enough to stop me from barn dooring. Like I can't lay back on the sloper. I would just twist off. And now, obviously, I can't do a foot switch on this little foothold. So how would I stand up to the sloper and stick it without barn dooring off, since in this scenario where we have the assumption that I can't lay back on it? Like obviously if the foot's a little bit more left, then we can just stand up and lay back and we won't barn door. But in this scenario, we can't. So the way, this is where the dynamic inside flag is just so amazing. So we go up to the sloper and the inside flag stops. It moves our center, it shifts our center of gravity because we're putting a leg in front of us, and it stops any sort of torque because your foot is obviously pressing against the wall to stop you from spinning. Now we can't do like a regular back flag because it's just, it requires too much motion to sort of twist our body around, and then all of a sudden our body's like coming away from the wall and the sloper is no longer good anymore. It's not a good enough hold to do this. Like let's say it was a jug, we could sort of do, like the yanya or whatever and do like a back flag. But because this is a sloper and we need to stay really close up to it and up against the wall, the inside flag allows us to do this. So this comes into play like basically mainly in slab, obviously, with like this dynamic inside flag, but I would really recommend giving this move a try. It's going to take a while to sort of get used to when to apply this move, but this feels like a secret weapon right now of mine, actually, and Maddie too. Like I feel like there are going to be comp bowlers where this is going to give me an edge, and so it's like a cool feeling, and now I'm sharing it. So go and use this secret weapon, the dynamic inside flag. It's a game changer in my opinion, and it would honestly be great if this bowler like didn't have this left hold, and I think that this would be like sort of almost forced. Maybe you would have to play around with the position of the foothold to like force this like super well, because like maybe you might be able to lay back this hold. Like it would be really hard. I definitely think that the inside flag is the easiest way to do this move. But yeah, man, I really recommend experimenting with this. it seems like sort of like very crazy, and it seems like it should just not feel too good, but it's like a super solid feeling position, and I love anytime I'm able to use this move. So now we are moving on to the last boulder of the session. With the way that the program is written, I have all of our boulder sessions are listed at an hour, but for those who have been following the channel for a long time, you'll know that I like to go overtime often. So when I write my boulder sessions as being like an hour long, I sort of assume that I allow myself like up to like 15 minutes of overtime for all of these boulder sessions. So in reality, an hour-long boulder session means that it can be up to an hour and 15, and that's kind of what happened during this session. I was playing around on this boulder. It was like nice and technical, so even though I wasn't feeling too great, I was able to work this boulder for a little bit, and it was quite tricky, so I ended up going I think just 10 minutes over in the session. Instead of our regular hour-long of bouldering, it was an hour and 15. And this boulder was actually one of the first boulders of the day that I started to notice my shoulder was not feeling like super awesome. So this boulder, I'm kind of having to cheat it a little bit. Not cheat it, but try and reinvent it. So I'm obviously like have a heel on this little blue foothold on the black volume. And it definitely seems like it's intended to be a toe, especially when we get higher up, like in this later sequence. The toe is like really essential to do the ending of this boulder. But the reason I'm throwing a heel up there is because I can't like sort of stand up into this mantle move between the blue and the black volume, like while I'm standing with my feet low. And the reason is because that's like basically exactly how I hurt my shoulder, was jumping into a mantle like that. So the idea with the heel on the little foothold is that I can use the heel to pull my body into the mantle position, and then now that I'm already above it, I can hopefully try and switch it to a toe. Like I was spending a lot of time figuring out how to do this ending sequence without jumping into a mantle because I didn't want to risk, bothering my shoulder. So I was trying to obviously go for this heel thing, but I think on this try, this ends up being my best morning attempt. I find what will end up being my sun beta later in the day, which was to do this sort of foot first method rather than the jump into the mantle. But this time I put the heel in the volume, and then I do this cool little move where I rest my toe on the foothold. So as I start rocking up, my toe can start to engage on the foothold, and now I'm set up better for the ending. But I was getting a little fatigued from all the pressing around on this volume, so we'll have to save that one for the second session to try and get the full send. So I rested for about 3 to 4 hours between sessions, and now we're back for session 2. And I was indeed feeling quite a bit better while I was warming up for this session, and I knew that I was going to be able to put some proper attempts on this boulder here, which I think is definitely like the hardest boulder in the gym by quite a bit, honestly. And I was talking to one of the setters actually, and he said that they put this boulder up as like a test beast for a lot of the strong people in the area, and so I definitely wanted to try my best on it. And obviously this boulder like looks super Zach style with not only pinches but campusing on pinches, so I was definitely motivated to try and send this. Interesting element of this boulder actually, I definitely thought that it looked hard, but I was confident that I could maybe send it because these pinches are usually my style. But the ones I have here at Rose Block actually are quite slippery, which adds like an extra element of difficulty to this boulder. As you can tell, it's like a very intense start position. We have to jump into this pinch, and then because you have to jump into it, it doesn't allow you to grab it really well, and then you don't get even any relief. All you get to do is tap your feet on a dual tex start foot, and then you got to campus in and match it. It's like super slippery. You're like got to squeeze really, really hard. And then going into this zone is like turned like really weirdly, and it's like super, super intense. And the next move is quite epic. So once we get the zone, there's like a little foot chip. So you got to hold the zone, and you place your foot on this foot chip and basically try and use it to bounce into the next two pinches. And the setters did like a great job with that foothold. It's like if it was a little bit better, we could get a bit of tension on it and do like a more controlled, like 1-2 move to the pinches, but it's like super slopey. So all you get is like a little bit of press off it to bounce into the next move, which I thought was like super cool. And unfortunately I had to stop trying this boulder like a bit early on. I definitely had more fight in me and I was like starting to make progress, but you can see this sort of nasty flapper that I was getting. The way that you have to pinch the start hold with your right. So like when you come in for the campus match and pinch with your right hand, you have to use like a really weird thumb grip, and it was flapping my skin up a lot. And so my attempts started to diminish the more the flapper came. So hopefully I'll get to come back and try that boulder again because it was super epic, but I'll have to wait till my flapper heals a little bit. It's quite painful. And then look at this boulder. So we gave this one a couple tries in the morning, obviously, and I was not able to do anything on it. I could not hold these holds for the life of me. They just felt impossible. And my suspicion of me just feeling like randomly garbage in the morning turned out to be correct, because that boulder felt like quite solid in the second session. And that's why like I just swear by double sessions, especially like doing 2 sessions in the same gym on the same boulders too. It allows me to have way more wiggle room with like, okay, you know, I don't have to try and send this boulder right now because it's feeling like super bad. I'll just save it for the second session. And it helps me do more boulders in a day basically and get more bang for my buck and, you know, more data to be inputted into my body basically. Like the more boulders I do and the more boulders my body consumes, the better and smarter of a climber I become. And like that's like the theory with my training method. And as I was also able to get a sense of that blue boulder, which is pretty cool. After we put a lot of work in it on the morning, I had all my beta, and I was able to do it with a bit more freshness, which was cool. So now this boulder here, let's have a look at this. So obviously this is like a mantle position that we're starting with, and it's like, so you see how my shoulder is sort of like my left shoulder, we're in this position where it's sort of almost disengaged and you have to press and sort of engage it as you're mantling up. Again, that's like basically exactly how I heard it in like this position where it's out to the left of me and I'm trying to press on it. So I was like kind of sussing out the position, seeing if I could start it, but it was like way too intense feeling and I didn't want to risk it. So what I did instead is I decided to, because the ending of this boulder still looks like quite cool. It looked like a cool little paddle. I find out in a few attempts that the paddle is a bit too spicy, and I realized that I can just hold the second last. But I wanted to try like the ending of this boulder, so what I did is I said, okay, I'll just start with like a crimp on my right hand, so that way I can just end up in the mantle position and I don't have to press out of it, and that way my shoulder is not at any risk. But this boulder was kind of what sealed the deal in my mind of saying, okay, yeah, I definitely can't go to this training camp in Ottawa. Like I'm not comp ready. Like you see, I don't trust like my shoulder in this sort of pressing position, which is a very sort of common position for comp style boulders. Like it's not like, you know, like this is a rare sort of move. Just pressing in general is quite common and it still feels a bit insecure. So I want to give myself at least another week of getting used to comp style bouldering and seeing if there's any more confidence that I can gain before we do a competition. So hopefully I should be feeling good by dark horse. That would be nice. And so we're moving on with the session. Other than like the super hard pinchy boulder, there weren't any like mega hard boulders left. So we're gonna go around and do all of like the cool comp style looking moderates. There are like still a lot of jumps and slabs that I have to get to in the day. And like I was saying, like Bloc is probably like the jumpiest gym in this area. And I definitely got to make use of all these boulders. And like, yeah, it would be fun to go try. I mean, like, let's say that I didn't have a flapper on my thumb and I had the option to go try the super hard purple one again. I actually think I would have walked away from it at the point in the session that I did anyway, because like, yeah, that boulder is like really awesome. And I really do want to try it again. And I'm sure we'll probably come back to try it again. But I also got to control myself and say, okay, you know, as the season approaches, it's also important that I don't just spend all my time like working 1 or 2 hard boulders. And I got to make sure that I go around and try like as many things in the gym as I can, get on all these slabs, get on all these jumps, because I need my body, like muscle memory is just such a powerful thing, especially in comp style bouldering. And if you are not used to doing all these jumps and bouncy moves, it will just start to become foreign feeling to your body. And when comp day rolls around, you just want to basically like feel like you've done every move before. And so like the high performance comp is still about only a month away, but until then I still like, it's a month away, but it's not actually a whole lot of time. I need to spend this time like just repping out comp style move after comp style move, getting my body super like nice and primed and get my comp style instincts firing. And that way comp style movement does not feel foreign by the time we have like an important event coming up. So yeah, the moral of the story is I got to make sure I go around and do like as many boulders as possible and try not to get caught up in just trying projects as the season approaches. And yeah, that's the idea. So this here is the last boulder of the day. This boulder actually took me 3 attempts. One of the attempts didn't make it in the video, but this boulder is like a V7, and I just want to say that this is the hardest V7 I've ever sent in my life, and probably ever will send in my life. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to go to Bloc Shop Hochelaga for the campus session on their spray wall, so we're going to jump into that right now. So here we are for the next day of training, and I just want to start off this session by giving you some context as to what I'm going to be dealing with today. This is my thumb after it was sitting in a Band-Aid all overnight, but this flapper is like super painful, so anytime you see me grabbing any pinches in my right hand, I just want you to know that I'm suffering, pretty much. So yeah, we're here for our campus session, and right now we're at Bloc Shop, but this is not the same location of Bloc Shop that we were training at in our first video while we were in Montreal. This is the Hochelaga location. The other one was the Chabanel location. And there's actually another one too, a pretty new location called Milex. And Maddie and I have yet to visit that location yet, but I'm sure we will soon. But I know that Hochelaga has this very famous spray wall, and it is very epic, as you can see. It's just filled with like amazing holds, and just like I couldn't dream of a better spray wall. This, like, I've seen like videos and pictures of this, but when I went and saw it in person, I was just blown away. Like, holy cow, not only are the gyms here going to be absolutely amazing, but look at this spray wall. This is like, you know, going to be the go-to spray wall. I'm so excited. So we are doing a boulder right now, and this boulder is pretty funky. It's got some weird Gaston moves. You can see I have to get my foot in play to be able to do this sequence. It felt absolutely impossible to sort of campus on these shoulder moves without at least like tapping the wall to stop my spin. And for anyone that's been following the channel for a while, this is sort of a rule of mine for my campus sessions. I'll allow myself to tap the wall with my foot if I do need to stop a spin, and then obviously just try not to press off of it so that I don't ruin the integrity of campusing. But yeah, that was a fun boulder. And here we are moving on to another one. The idea with this session was that I made a circuit of 4 boulders before the session started. And since not only was this my first time campusing on this wall, and it's also my first time campusing in like a couple weeks, because I got hurt my shoulder obviously, and then I had to take a little break from campusing. So this is something that I'm very conscious of while I'm training, is getting used to a new spray wall can actually take a bit of time, and it can be quite challenging. And so the idea with this campus session was I tried to make campus boulders that were a bit softer than I normally would, just because oftentimes with the new spray wall, I will overestimate my abilities, and the boulders I make up end up being like way too hard. So you'll notice I flashed this boulder here, and here I am like trying a different variation of it, just to kind of mess around, but it was a little too spicy, so I decided to move on to the next one. But yeah, like usually when I make up a campus boulder, I won't be flashing it. Like I usually try to make my campus boulders like pretty hard and have to take like a couple sessions to send. But yeah, like I was saying, the idea with this campus session is that I actually need to spend just a couple, like even with the bouldering sessions on this wall, I need to spend a couple sessions trying to shoot under the normal grades that I would, like the normal difficulty of boulders that I would try and make. Not only because I need to get used to the holds and the angle and just the whole overall feel of the wall, but just because, especially with the new wall with holds that I'm not used to, I can just often overestimate my abilities when I'm like looking at a boulder and they turn out to be like way too hard. So this just helps the session flow a bit better. By undershooting all the difficulty of the boulders, it ensures that they're all going to be quite possible, and I don't have to spend too much time like forerunning and tweaking boulders around. So all these boulders were pretty much like no tweakers, right? So like I made them up and then they just worked, and I didn't have to change anything about them, which is quite nice. And it is important to be able to do this as well with like the style of training I go for, where I'm going and doing spray wall sessions all the time, and I just have to like train. And the more time I spend having to forerun a boulder, the harder it is to just train effectively. And so that's the logic with this camper session. But anyway, here we are trying boulder 3 of 4. This move off of the black sloper was maybe the hardest individual move of all the campus boulders that I made up. It is taking me a long time to figure out the nuances of this move. It was a lot of fun. I really, really like the amount of like slopers and like really bad holds on this wall. I'm very excited to train on these kinds of holds, because the spray wall at Climbers Rock that I've been training on previously, we just had like a lot of positive holds and not a whole lot of just pure slopers. So that's what I'm really looking forward to most with training on this wall. So here we go with this boulder. I decided to give one more attempt from the ground after I learned how to stick this move, but it is really hard to do that campus move with all these moves in the middle. So I'll have to come back to that one. And also for context, this spray wall is 45 degrees overhanging. So it's the same as the spray wall at Climbers Rock that we've been training on. So that's actually quite nice, because I have a very good, it helps me like when I'm trying to make boulders up, right? I already have a good gauge of what, like I have a really strong gauge of what 45 degrees feels like. And so it just helps me make boulders up more effectively for myself, which is pretty fun. And so here we are moving on to the last boulder of the session. And actually I take that back. This here is I take back what I said about the previous boulder having the hardest individual move. This move here, this paddle move, was definitely the hardest move. I could tell that it was a bit too spicy for the session. So I'm gonna save that paddle for the next session. And I decided to work the ending a little bit of this boulder, which is actually a super sick ending. It's got like this cool outwards facing like rollover move on the sloper, which is like kind of bad, kind of good, but this move is like super finicky. The sloper feels like incredibly garbage until you commit to the unwind, and then all of a sudden it becomes really good. I'm really proud of this move. This is quite fun. And anybody watching that climbs at Hochelaga, you gotta try this campus move. It's very cool. I also sort of underestimate the finish hold a bit, and I didn't grab it properly on this attempt, and I got got by this last move. But yeah, that wraps up the camp session. And actually, so a lot of other strong climbers are like climbing on this wall, and it's nice. I was sort of looking through the Stoked app, which is the app that we used sort of, that you saw on your screen, and is like sort of like, turning this wall into a kilterboard kind of app. It's called Stoked. And I was like scrolling through it at the end, and I see like there's a lot of people active on the app, like putting up boulders, which is quite nice. And like recently as well, I got a couple messages from other strong climbers recommending me boulders and also campus boulders. So it's gonna be fun. This spray wall is actually almost gonna be like a hybrid of like a spray wall that I make up boulders for myself to train on, and also like kilter board style where I get to try other people's boulders that they've made. So I'm actually really excited. And in the future spray wall and campus sessions, I'm sure we'll be trying some of these other boulders that people have made and recommended for me, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, a couple days of training over, tomorrow's rest day, and then I think day one for the next couple days, we'll have some boulder sessions at Bloc, which I'm quite excited for. Bloc is known as like one of the hardest gyms around, and they have like some proper projects up, which I'm excited to get on, and good comp style setting as well. So look forward to that. Insert catch a video outro here.